Is video game violence really affecting our children and the way we think and live? Let's talk about that. Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about the facts of video game violence, the difference between Mortal Kombat and Grand Theft Auto, and what they depict, and the difference, what is what, and I'm going to tell you all the facts about it. Let's get into it. So, since the beginning of video game violence, Mortal Kombat has always been the focus, one of the main focuses of video game violence, and the depictions of bloody, gory, horrible things in the eyes of children. And that's why they came up with the whole rating that mature audience or teens or anything like that. So if you're too young, this game is most likely not for you, and it's up to the parents for them to buy it or not. The thing about it is that video games that depict violence, like Mortal Kombat, video games that depict violence, do not create violent tendencies. Nobody thinks this is a good idea. Nobody thinks that going into a deadly arena and beating each other up and being all gory, and this is not relevant to real life. Nobody's going out there. Maybe UFC fighters are trying, you know, but they're taking it as a professional sport. No one in the world is trying to imitate Mortal Kombat. That's just not true. And yes, Mortal Kombat does depict extreme violence and gore, but it's not affecting anybody. It's not making anybody really think, oh, I'm just gonna go out and do this, because it's fictional and it's not realistic. It's not practical in any damn way. On the other hand, you have games like Grand Theft Auto. The problem with games like Grand Theft Auto is that it's not about violence. It's not about depicting violence. It's about depicting crimes as a good idea. That's the whole problem with GTA. It's not about the violence. No one thinks that going out there and shooting a crowd and stuff like that is a good idea. You know? It's about how GTA depicts that by committing these crimes, you end up ruling the city. You end up as a drug lord or a crime lord. And that's the problem. It's not about the violence. It's about depicting crimes as a good idea. And then you have children and stupid people saying, you know what? That heist they did in GTA really seems like a good idea. How about we do it in real life and become, you know, buy a Lamborghini and have all this money, because that's how GTA depicts crimes. They depict it in a way where you're basically becoming a lord, a king of the city. And they depict it like you commit crimes and you end up having all these awesome things in life, and you end up being a badass. And that's everything wrong with video games, is that the depiction of crimes as if it was a good idea. But you gotta think about it like this. It's not only video games. You have movies and TV series that promote mafia behavior, like crime lords, drugs. You have, what's your favorite movie? Oh, Scarface. Why? Because he came from nothing, and through drugs and crime he became a god, basically. No, that's just a bad reason. So it's not only in video games, but that is the problem. And it's not video game violence what people are supposed to be fighting, because that's not a thing. It's video game crimes, the depiction of crimes, and not the accurate showcasing of the consequences of doing those crimes. They always glorify the villains, and that's the problem with games like Grand Theft Auto. They don't show the consequences. the real consequences of committing these crimes. They basically show the opposite. They glorify it. They show you gaining a king-like status, ruling the city, having all these amazing cars, clothing, and depicting as if it's a good idea to live a crime life. And that's the problem. It's not like Mortal Kombat that depicts violence. It's the fact of committing crimes in a compelling and convincing way where people think that it's a good idea to commit crimes. And that's the main difference between a game that depicts violence like Mortal Kombat and a game that promotes crimes like Grand Theft Auto. And that's the fact. So there you go. Those are the facts. Either you accept them or you don't. It doesn't matter. We have all these people going to court and taking video game developers to court because of supposed video game violence, when in truth it's not the violence that's depicted in games or movies and stuff like that. It's the idea of glorifying crime lords, of glorifying crime and making it seem like it's a good idea. It's video game crimes and not depicting the true consequences of those crimes. That's the whole problem.
Outworld will be terminated.
You are but a single machine.
I am one of many.
Round one, fight!